It's Ink and Echo, the show where these two guys hung out for like 2 days straight and didn't even do a podcast together. So we're doing it now.
Didn't even do it. And now we got nothing to talk about because we already talked about everything.
We already got it all out
together.
But there is this, Josh.
Episode. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's episode 40. So I put this little sample in for us. Yeah. That's appropriate, right? Number 40. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say this is the limit for me. I think this will be my last episode. I'm
okay.
done.
It's just me from here on out.
Yeah, it's just Echo now. After this one.
Okay, just
got to take out the ink. We'll do the whole
it's
legal
be
battle
welcome
thing.
to the And Echo show with me and only me, your pal Echo. Cool. So you're wiped out, Josh. Why?
That I am.
What's your problem? What's your deal?
Well, as you know, I spent the whole week working on my home, and my wife and daughter got back last night, and I'm just, I'm in need
Physically.
of sleep. You would think a whole week to myself, I would have taken better care to like sleep in and get some rest. But of course, no, I stayed up till 1 every night, and anyway, but it was great. Yeah.
So
but the
I
house
didn't
is
know.
looking good.
Yeah, it is looking good. I was just there. I didn't realize until like right before you did it that you were like your wife was going to be gone for a week, but then you also took the week off of work, which just sounds like the best time you could even have as a married man with a job to have both those things go away for a week.
I was out of there. Yes, there were some great moments. Yes, because I got to watch a lot of movies and eat like a degenerate and drink a bunch of light beer, and it was great. Enjoyable. Do you feel? It is good that those only come around like once a year, though. This kind of scenario, because I did get pretty lonely after about 48 hours. I was like, okay, the house is too quiet. I'm ready for them to be back. Right,
totally. Do you feel good about what you accomplished over the week? You feel like it was like your wife can come home and be like, yeah, good. You did a good job.
Oh, yeah.
This week.
Half the reason or more is so that she will be proud of me and like me for having made our home better. I mean, she already likes me no matter what, but
look what I did even when you were gone, when I could have just, I don't know what else you could have been doing, but if you didn't have that, you would be super bored during that time.
Maybe. I couldn't have sat still for that long, for sure.
Right.
I'm kind of dreading a little bit going back to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be fine. My job is no worse or any different than ever. But still, it's hard to have this much time off and then return.
Right. Yeah.
Right. It always like it throws off life rhythm to be off of work for this long. You know, you start to adjust to a new way of living, and then it's like,
not having a job or any responsibilities. Yeah.
Yeah. But
anyway, and so the other big news is that I was at your house 2 nights ago, and we were blowing up a bunch of stuff with black cats.
True.
And I put one in a beer bottle, and it exploded and like cut the shit out of your hand. So I want to know. I want a hand update because I felt pretty bad, and it was bleeding pretty good.
Emmy thinks that I should go get stitches, which I'm going to promptly ignore. I'll post a picture.
Okay.
So that our listeners can see. I mean,
I don't even think I want to see it, but yeah, you should.
It's fine. Like there's no Band-Aid on it. It's totally closed up. But the night of when I went inside to rinse it off, I was like, oh boy, this is a lot of blood. Which thankfully that doesn't make me queasy or faint or anything. But it was just like, wow, yeah, that's a lot coming out of my hand. That's probably not good. But it feels fine.
Right. Good.
Might leave a gnarly scar, but that's okay.
It just felt like such a dumb thing to happen. Like we were just being idiots, like blowing up beer bottles and trying to shoot things into the sky. Like, of course, someone gets a gnarly gash. And I had one blow up in my hand, and it didn't do anything. Luckily, I escaped unharmed.
I mean, the track record is pretty good though. Like, I've done a lot of idiotic things and never gotten hurt, and this was just the one where I happened to get hurt. I mean,
right, and you weren't even close to it. It was just like a freak glass shrapnel accident.
Yeah.
So, anyway, it was interesting because we were both up there, and I think both of us just kind of needed a chill out, not do anything. Yeah. So I feel like
and we didn't even loose a bit.
Yeah, we didn't even try to do anything deep or that interesting. Like, we ordered a pizza and had it delivered and sat around a campfire.
I felt kind of foolish the next morning.
Why?
Well, because ordinarily I think our conversation would have probably gone a little deeper. And this time we basically just goofed around and talked about albums, and Marshall came over. And I mean, it was a good time. I don't regret it. I don't think we did anything wrong or stupid, but I was just
and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think we needed it a little bit. Let our brains and bodies be loose. You know? I felt good about it. It was great. So, what do we want to do today?
Well,
on this here, the Ink and Echo 40th anniversary podcast.
Well, so I was looking into, not this last week, but prior, while I was at work, I was reading more about Enneagram type 4s, because it's been a little while, a few months since I took the test, and I just wanted, well, the truth is I was having a really rough day and just feeling very down and not like myself and not productive. And so I just, for whatever reason, I was like, I'm going to go read again the sort of traits of a type 4. And so I went to the EnneagramInstitute.com and just read through the entire type 4 page, strengths, weaknesses, things you to gravitate towards. And there was actually in that day and since then some really helpful things, which seems so
were they things you'd overlooked obvious before?
Well, I had never read the full description. I just read kind of the basic results that are type 4s are like this, and it was just one paragraph. But things get pretty extensive on their website, and you can even read about a type 4 in a relationship with a type 7, which is what Emmy is, and kind of how those complement or bash against each other. But
did you find that lined up pretty well? I know it's not where you want to go.
Yeah,
okay.
It actually really did. And that, thankfully, a 4 and a 7 is because 7 is the very adventurous type, always looking for the next thrill or the next best thing to do in the moment. They're usually really excited and peppy. And so anyway,
and then the 4s are I can't even control my mind, and I would like to die right now instead of doing it.
Yeah. So what's fun is a 7 can help a 4 chill out a little bit and enjoy life.
I see.
And 4s can help 7s slow down a little bit and be serious every once in a while. But anyway, where I was going with this was just one of the most profound things was it said type 4s, it recommends don't put things off until you're quote unquote in the right mood. Just commit yourself to productive, meaningful work that will contribute. Oh, go ahead.
What's the reason behind that? Is there and here's why, because you're bad at this?
No, just, I mean, basically because type 4s, a perfect example is sitting down and having time to write and just being I don't really feel it today. The inspiration's not really there. But
that's not saying you're lazy. It's just you don't feel ready for things. You're prepared to do a thing, but you convince yourself that you're not ready. Yeah.
It's sense. Pushing through thinking that inspiration isn't there, or that if you just get started, it will start to come. It will start to flow out, and but that can be, at least for me, a super paralyzing moment where, especially if it happens multiple days in a row.
Yes.
It's I'm right on the precipice of stepping into starting work, creative work, and I just don't do it, and then I hate myself. So anyway, this just helped me to, I don't know, basically not think about it so much and just go ahead and start, even if I don't feel super excited about it.
Were there things you were trying to do at the time that you were wanting to start but hadn't?
I was trying to write. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I've got a new script I'm working on, and I've got a short story I'm working on, and
nice.
I'll just get to that point in the day. I know I've said this before on the show, but I get to that point in the day where I have time to do it, and I just choose distraction instead.
Right.
Frequently, not always. But it's like, sometimes I really don't understand where that comes from, because it's like I'm excited about these stories. I really want to tell them and get them out and done. But and just like I said, that adds so much to the self-loathing of like, you piece of shit. Like, you could have worked and you didn't. Now you have to wait a whole 24 hours before you're back to that point. And so anyway, that was just very helpful. And I would encourage anybody who's taken the Instagram
the Instagram test. We've all failed that one.
Yes, we sure have. Anyone who's taken the Enneagram, you should go just check up on your number every 3 months or so and just remind yourself of those traits, because
does anyone's number change? Like, surely you're a solid 4. But
4 to the I'm gonna get a tattoo. 4 till I die. I do think so. I do think traumatic life events can change your number. Sometimes you might, I don't know, at age 20, you might be a different number than you are at age 45 or something.
Okay.
But in general, I think most people are pretty solidly on 1.
Right. Yeah, I should do it again. Like I've said this before too, but the first time I did it, I was a 4. The second time, the first time I did it, I was a 4-wing 5. And then the next time I was a 5-wing 4. So I just have a feeling that I'm somewhere right in between those.
I would tend to think you're more of a 5, yeah.
Okay.
Like with a heavy dose of 4, obviously the creative side, but you're very cerebral and like you think through things and you need literal answers a lot of the time.
And the big thing with the 5 was the energy, like how it's sucked away by people, and not, so like I have to be alone a lot to make life work in any way. That's like one of my defining characteristics that I've had to figure out. So, okay. So have you had better writing days since then? And you just like, you sat down and you're like, I don't really want to do this, but that you did.
Sorry, your call like cut out, so I couldn't understand what you said.
Okay. Let me move my hotspot because it works better if it's in my car in a weird way. I'll be right back.
Closer to the signal.
Point here, right now.
Oh, man. Edit point. Edit point. Dude. Okay, today on the show, we're brought to you by old Petey Pal's Pizza Palace. It's the greatest pizza it's the greatest pizza you've ever had. And just trust us and get your little buns down here to try Pete's Super Duper Pizza Palace place, and everybody on staff is named Pete. And what we do is we whip up some great pies for you, and Pete throws it in the oven, and the other Pete, he brings it to your table. And
is this an ad?
It's just all Pete's. I just went for it since we had the ad music. Yeah. Oh, I'm talking about Pete's Pizza Palace place, the greatest pizza you've ever. Oh, there's the pizza horn calling.
The pizza horn
means the oven's ready. And what we got over here is just when you come in, you're one of us. You're one of the Pete's, and everybody slaps you on the back and a little pat on the ass, and you sit down and you get your Coca-Cola and your slices, and just eat it right up together.
Yeah, you want to meet the employees here? We got Pete number 1. We got Pete 2.
There he is.
We got Pete number 3. Pete number 4 in the back over here. Woo!
Peter.
Pete, what's up? Love him.
That's my
man.
Love
those Pete's. Yeah.
They're all doing a great job. That's Pete's Pizza Palace place. Get in there.
Pizza
get
Palace
your game
place.
tickets for the arcade in there. They got Rush. They got the one with the gorilla and the monkey that break down Rampage. That's what it's called. They've got Turtles in Time. They've got Bart Simpson.
They've got
smacking
Cruising
shit
World,
with a skateboard,
and Cruising USA. Yeah,
I need to get over to my Pete's place now.
Pizza Palace Place. What was it? Place Palace?
It's just you just say whatever you think
cool.
it is, and that's their name for that day.
Premium Pete's.
Great. Thanks, Pete's Palace Extravaganza Place.
So much. We didn't do the intro music, but we're doing the outro. So what does that mean? Does that mean it was still good?
That's still an ad, 100%.
Okay. Boy, what was I saying?
We were talking about Enneagram, and you asked something.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Oh, I was saying my energy thing. I'm low. People take my energy, and I hate them all for it. I'm just kidding. That's not part of it. Yeah. Anyway, Enneagram's good, and you're doing work, and you feel good about it, right?
Yes. Learning to just start and continue. So,
okay, since I didn't realize you had some things in the works right now.
Oh, got some things cooking.
Oh, hell yeah. That's what I like to hear. What do you have a timeline? Do you have any goals other than writing certain times a day? What's happening over there? What's the deal?
For the script, which is a very new thing that I didn't know that I was going to be writing, but I just feel too compelled by it to not write it and not finish this story. So it is not, I won't dwell here, but it is based in the Cordial Kill universe. It's kind of the rest of that story that has always been around, but
I know sure. The name. Has the name stayed the same? Uh-huh. Can you say it or no?
Blacktop City. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I can't tell if that's a good title or a dumb title. But that's okay. Those can change.
Sure.
But yeah, that is something I would like to just knock out in 2 months or so. I think that's a pretty reasonable.
And this would be a full, like a feature film?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And it isn't like I don't even know what I would do with it. I don't immediately want to start production on a whole entire film, but it's just I kind of want to have that ready.
Sure.
For if and when something comes next, as far as developing another movie. I don't know if I'm ready to shoot a feature. I'm probably not. But
well, I wonder if you could gain some more connections and just kind of, I mean, we've talked about it before, just bring on more people so that it's not, you could still be making progress on it and also maybe still be working towards something else at the same time. Basically, just take as much load off as you can to make it happen. Maybe even quicker, you know?
Right. Yeah. So that's one thing where cool. I mean, the idea, the arc of this story has been in my head for at least 2 years, and I just haven't put it down on paper.
Right.
So I'm taking that Enneagram advice and just going for it.
And now, okay, so the idea, one of the things I like to think about is like there's certain ideas I have, and
mm-hmm.
I don't, like I said before, I don't normally write it down or anything, but if there's an idea that's still there after like 6 months or a year, I'm just like, I should probably do that. So is this idea one that's like that, or is it something that's like, well, I've sort of started this thing and I feel like I have to, like it's a forcing thing, or is it something that's just like kind of nagging you and you're like, okay, well, I just got to finish it in a good way?
It's more the former one you mentioned, that yes, I've had this idea for years, and it's one of the ones that even not having written it down, it is stuck around.
But not in a guilt way is what I'm saying.
No.
Because you're doing Cordial Kill, you're not thinking like, oh, well, I got to do the full thing now. But you're doing it because you want to, and the idea is just cool enough in your head that you've just got to complete it.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool. That's good.
Yeah, it's fun. It's weird to me. I've realized lately how much, not lately, I've known for a while, that so many stories I've written have come out of enjoying a song a whole lot. I know that sounds weird, not like lyrically taking a concept and turning it into a story, but the I don't know, the genesis of Cordial Kill is so
was Genesis
due to
I'm just kidding.
Well, it could have been. But it was just so birthed out of loving Alan Parsons Project, honestly, and things of that era. And, there's no direct line of like, this song made me think of this idea.
It's just more a vibe thing.
Yeah, that time period, picturing what people dressed like and what they were doing in the cars they drove. It's just like, I love everything about this era. So anyway, but I mean, even lately, that's been true with like King Gizzard songs and Moody Blues, that it's just like, man, they're like, certain songs will make me think of a cinematic sequence that I could create based on that song. So anyway, I'm sorry, I sound like I'm
that's cool.
or something, but
I was thinking back to this is a while ago, but Trevor Eagleman's podcast that we did, and we were both kind of like how he takes inspiration for his art from like other art that's like wildly different and really has no relation to it. And we were both kind of like, wow, that's crazy. I don't understand that at all. But it sounds like you've started doing it in a way and you've figured out that that's what it is, which is cool.
Right. Yeah. I think because, I don't know, music just makes me think about things.
Yeah.
Or, music can be so cinematic in general.
Right.
And the timing is so specific that I envision like beat points or cut points and just things happening in motion with the song, and how the song kind of dictates the vibe and the feeling of what's happening. Anyway, it's really fun.
Yeah. I was just I wonder if there's any sort of lesson there. I mean, for me and everyone else. Whereas like I know sometimes I think like I hear a song and I'm like, that's a cool song. I'd like to do something similar to that, which is maybe not the best way to go about it because you're too close to your own art form kind of, or whatever.
Sure.
Like I don't know if this, I'm just thinking this now, this might be a false statement, but it's almost like any inspiration that you get, the inspiration you get from anything other than your own art form is probably going to be a little more interesting or easier to stick around. Do you feel like, am I just making shit up, or do you feel like that might be true? Because like, if you saw, I mean, you were obviously like a Tarantino or something, that's harder. Like, yes, you can be very inspired to be like, I loved that movie so much, but then you're just like, well, I can't do the same movie. Or if I hear a song, I'm just like, I can't, they just did that. Like, I can't just do that.
Yes.
So there's got to be, it's almost like there's got to be a almost different art form that you pull from. That sounds like a better place, because you can't plagiarize it, basically. Maybe that's what I'm saying. You pull from a place that you can't plagiarize, which is freeing, because you're like, you're not thinking about how to stay away from a certain other thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think there's a degree of truth to that. It's like a very broad, obscure concept, and yet I totally feel that that's accurate.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So what about the story, the short story you're writing?
Well, so on that note, I mean, over the past few years, ever since, man, I guess the last thing I put out was the novel.
That was 2015,
October
right?
2015.
Yeah.
But since then, I've written a number of short stories and just haven't, it's like I went through the rounds for a little bit of submitting them to be published, and it just didn't go anywhere, and I got burnt out on that. So they're just sitting there, but they're completely done, and I'm happy with them. And I don't know, I just felt like recently, well, I should start just putting these out. I don't care if they're free or 99 cents or whatever. But it's just like, they shouldn't be sitting here. And I could wait until I have 10 or 15 of them and do a collection.
Right. I was going to say, is there a benefit either way for doing it like that? Like a bunch of single stories versus a collection?
I mean, I don't know. I think people would tend to be more prone to buy a full collection, but I might be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's my thought too. But I mean, I'm thinking about music, and we kind of made fun of like SoundCloud rappers a while ago. But there is something to dripping stuff out over a longer period of time to keep people engaged versus just like holding out for a year or whatever. And then, so I don't know. I wouldn't say one way is better than the other, but there's probably pros and cons either way. Like I've even, in my head, I've, and this is maybe one of those ideas, if it sticks around for long enough, I'll actually do it. But I've just been taking stock of how I'm doing creatively. And one of the thoughts I have is to do something like Bazan did, and I know other people did with like the monthly, like here's a new song every month, and at the end it's like a physical release or something.
Yeah.
That seems like it might be a cool thing to do, just to be like every month it's just like one song, like that's doable. A song in a month, that's completely doable. And then after the year, you're like, oh, I got this whole thing, and then you have some sort of setup that keeps you accountable to it because you have people watching and waiting for those songs.
Yeah.
The more I think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a cool thing to maybe try. So yeah, and I don't know. Part of it, I'm thinking marketing wise, like most of my money comes from Spotify. So if I could be putting a new song out on Spotify every month for a year,
oh yeah,
like that could, like I don't really like trying to think about that too much because I wonder when I'm starting to bastardize the art in lieu of some sort of marketing scheme or campaign. But that is a thought that's in my head.
Yeah.
So, and it also goes, I know we talked a little bit about it this weekend, but like that I just basically want to do things faster, have things come out, have more things come out quicker without sacrificing quality somehow.
Right.
That's for sure a goal of mine. So anyway, yes, short story.
Well, on that point, I was going to say, I mean, Sweet Pea is the only song that has been truly a single, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, but also you had a very good reason for doing that song.
Right.
So
which a lot of people don't know, but
sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like as long as you have a good reason or a solid inspiration to do a single, it's not like you could churn out some ridiculous bullshit just trying to get some more streams, and that's
not what I'm interested in doing. Like I said, I'm just trying to focus on maximizing the creative process for myself and figuring out, so still be very happy with what comes out, but just do it quicker or in a more efficient way.
Right.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah, totally. Think you should.
Maybe. Once the summer's over, I'm excited because your movie soundtrack is done. So
it is. That's
hooray about that.
Air horn for that.
And my big push this week is to get this contract work done, these 4 songs, which seems very reasonable. And then it's kind of weird because I'm like, well, and then I have the touring stuff. But then I'm just kind of like free and clear, and I'm looking forward into the near future. I'm like, I'm going to have like a free slate, and like, what am I going to do with it? I just want to be so productive. Like if I could this year, maybe put together one of those monthly things, maybe release another EP before the year's out, do some collaboration albums with other people, and like have all that stuff come out or be done by the end of this year, that'd be so awesome. Like right. I'm just excited thinking about the things I could do once I fulfill my duties as of right now. Yeah. Which, speaking of that, if you're gonna turn that thing into a full length movie, like you're gonna need a lot more songs, huh? Once it's time for that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh
and,
yeah.
We've already proven that seems to work well for both of us. So
yeah, I'll be sure to hit up Alex Sugg as soon as I'm ready for songs, and I'll go make a great soundtrack with him over there.
We made damn good songs.
Yeah.
So. Okay. Yeah. Anything else you want to say there about your working on stuff, getting stuff done?
Well, yeah, I just want to increase my output too.
Yeah.
And stop holding on to these things. I think I used to be just too precious about it, to like every release, even for a little short story Kindle single, had to be, I don't know, I just put too much time almost into it, because it's, to everyone outside of me, it's just a thing that they may or may not read, or they might even buy it for 99 cents and not read it. Like it doesn't matter, which is why at this point in life I'd be completely fine just giving it away.
Sure.
'Cause I'd rather more people have it than not get it because they have to pay for it. So
because they can't find 99 cents in their bank account for some
reason.
It
is pretty silly, that someone wouldn't just fling for that, but I get it. I mean,
I know.
Some people still don't know what Amazon is.
Who? Do you have an example of that person?
Well, I mean, I've had people email me, friends, maybe people of an older generation than us, and they're like, what is a Kindle? Like, how do I get the story if I don't have one? Anyway, it's fun. I will be that person someday too, who's like, what is a flip Zooper that everyone has?
What is a holodeck? What is a laser saber? Light sword. Yeah. Well, so I was listening to a bunch of podcasts on the way back from your house.
Yep.
One of the ones I listened to was Pete Holmes with the Lucas brothers. I don't know if you know who they are. The twins.
Are they the two black guys who are comedians? Yeah. Okay.
They just had a special up on Netflix.
Right.
And I don't know, towards the end, Pete always does. He tries to go deep on spirituality and art and stuff. And I think the question he posed was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing what you're doing? And what's the purpose of like their comedy and stuff? And they were all, it was within the context of, they did a lot of talk about zooming out and what that meant, and like a creative and, existential, like they're philosophers that have philosophy degrees. So it's actually pretty interesting. A lot of stuff they said.
Oh, wow.
But the thing that stuck with me is that they said, like, they feel like, them as human beings, like, we're here and then we're gone. So they talked about death for a little while. And then so Pete was like, okay, well then what are you doing? Like, what is the point? And he was like, and they said that they think they're here to serve the concept of comedy, which I thought was really interesting. So they're not serving themselves. They're not serving even necessarily the people that are here right now, like alive. Sure. They're just like, at some point, no one's even going to know who Pete Holmes or the Lucas brothers are. But we will have done a tiny little thing to change the course of comedy. And that is they said that's worthwhile in their mind. And I thought,
interesting.
I mean, it's a simple but also pretty complex concept, because I don't know how I would answer that question, because I've spoken a lot, and I really believe a lot in art being self-satisfying, first of all. But I mean, that's coming from someone who's not putting any sort of words or ideas out there. But as like a comedian, or even probably you as a writer, it's like you're saying something. So you're in service of something, I suppose. And I don't know, like if I put it on myself, it's like, well, am I serving music? Am I serving like the genre of music that I'm doing? Like, is there a one-to-one thing there? I was like, I don't really know if there is or not, but I just thought it was an interesting concept or idea. Do you feel at all like, does that resonate with you in terms of what you think you're doing, or what it means that you're doing it?
I honestly almost never think about that.
Yeah.
I feel like I'd get too freaked out if I started thinking about it.
In like the zooming out sense, like writing as a whole, or the genre as a whole, or something, that feels like a lot of pressure or something.
At least dwelling upon how much my work matters in the scheme of things, and whether or not it will serve anything.
Right. And I think,
in this point in time. Yeah.
Right. And I think they were saying like that wasn't like a prime like motto for them or like a mission statement. It was just like when asked the question and having to sit there and think about it for a second, like that's where they went, which is good, because if you're just walking around and be like, I'm a servant of comedy, I'm here to make comedy better, like, that's like a super asshole thing to do. Probably be like, I'm a gift to comedy to make it better for the next generations or something. Like that's, not good, in that sense.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. It was interesting. I've said this before, and I've said this before too many times on this podcast already, but it seems like zooming out of a thing is generally good for your perspective on that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was interesting to hear them land at that spot when they zoom out on their art or the thing that they're creating, because
right.
I'm the same as you, is like, I don't really like to zoom out too much, because it's good for perspective every once in a while, but you can't just like live there. In order to accomplish anything, you have to be here to be in your own head and close to the thing that's happening. So
yeah, it is a really interesting thought, and I kind of like hearing other people like that put it in a specific way that that makes sense for them and kind of makes sense for many of us. But I don't know. I do occasionally think about the fact that, I mean, basically, I may never know, probably will never know, the impact that my work may have had on someone else. I don't mean because it's so great or so masterful, but just probably most of the people who enjoy it aren't going to take the time to reach out on social media or email and be like, hey, this book was great, or I really like the Ink and Echo podcast for these reasons. Like, it's interesting to think effect is presumably happening in other people's lives because of what we're saying here, but we might not ever know about it in our lifetimes. Yeah. Which I like that thought.
Yeah, it's comforting.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay.
That made me think about, right.
Yeah. The other thing they said, which I don't know that I could apply this to what I do, but they were, because they were talking about how they're philosophy majors, and they were pretty adamant that like what comedians do is kind of like a new philosophy in a way, like a pretty one-to-one thing. And they were even talking about how Socrates, what was his thing where he wrote a thing to say to the jury where they were choosing to like whether to kill him or not for being an atheist or something. And he basically just like took him down. It was like kind of funny. Like they said, they started reading these like Socrates and stuff, and it was funny because they were so like kind of brutal, and Socrates was basically like, yeah, you're saying I owe you repercussions, but it's like, you should let me go and you should pay me money for what's happening here.
Oh
like
gosh.
He totally turned it all around. So it's just, I don't know. I think for comedy, I think that's true. There's so many, I mean, that's probably why comedians are killing it in podcasts and TV shows and stuff, because they have really interesting worldview things to say. Right. And it's a pretty direct thing. Whereas what I'm doing, it's so much more vague, which I think I need, because if I had some real purpose for it, a real defined thing, like I would have more anxiety about missing it, And so I think I'm still in a place where I'm just like, I don't really know why I'm doing what I'm doing. I just enjoy it, and it's doing good when I zoom out and see that it's there. But other than that, it's like I have no thought about its value or purpose in the world, which for my little brain, I think that's good for me. So
yeah, I think you almost have to just treat it like that, treat it and approach it like that. Because if you start overthinking themes or symbols or like grand messages, that's probably, there's a few masters who can pull that off without being pretentious, but otherwise it seems to just stifle the art, and ultimately the end result is not that satisfying.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, are you all right with a change of subject here? A story from yesterday when I drove home from your house.
Sure.
So I won't make this story too long, but I hung out in downtown Denver for a little bit. Like I went to Great Divide
nice.
Brewery,
Okay.
and I didn't like it very much.
Yeah,
which I know you've said you're not a huge
fan. The beer
fan.
itself,
it was
the
okay.
people and the environment.
Well, I was just in a weird mood.
Okay.
I got there early. It didn't open till noon, and so I was just kind of walking around and just felt myself getting very overwhelmed. And I was like, I need to get food, but I don't want to go into any of these places because there's people there. Like there was a cool restaurant across the street, and I was like, I can't do that right now. So I went and had these beers. I didn't even finish any of them, which is weird. But so all that to say is like, then I started driving home, and I was just kind of like spiraling in a weird way. I was feeling down. And then I was looking at my map, and I was like, it's only an extra 45 minutes home if I drive through Taos, New Mexico.
Oh yeah.
Which, as you know, that's where my grandparents used to live, who are now both dead. And I was starting to think, like, I haven't been there in years. I was like, I should just, part of it is I want a change of scenery for the drive home, because I've done that drive so many times.
Right.
Which it was beautiful. I went west at Walsenburg, and then over and then down through Taos, New Mexico, which is beautiful. I hadn't been on that road west of Walsenburg. Anyway, I was just, as I got closer and closer to the city of Taos, where my grandparents used to live, I was like kind of not necessarily hyperventilating, but somewhere on that spectrum. I was like, my heart rate's going up. I was like, what? I'm driving by, and I'm like, oh, that place is still there. Like this place is closed. And it's just like the oddest feeling. And then eventually I got to my grandparents' house, and I like, pulled over and just kind of stood there and looked at it for a little bit. And it was just such a strange feeling. And I was trying to figure out why it felt so like dramatic. Because even in my own head, I was like, why is this seems so like high school drama in my own body happening. Like, why is it so visceral and almost painful when really there's only good memories from this place.
Oh, absolutely.
And the thing I ended up thinking on the rest of the drive home was like, that place, that house, and those people was the most comfortable place I've ever had in my entire life. Like, it was always such a place of comfort, a place where I would literally be able to get away from everything. I felt amazing. We would always, we'd go up there for long weekends because it was only 2 hours away from us. And one of the days we'd get up early, and some of us would go fishing and different spots around there. And it was just overall, like I said, the most cathartic place I've ever been. I don't think I've ever had anything like that since they moved away, and especially since they've both died.
Right.
And so I don't know. All that to say is just like I couldn't figure out why. Like, there's certain things, memories I think back to, and I'm like, that's a happy memory. That like makes me happy to think of it. But when I think of this place, I'm like, that was the best, most comfortable place I've ever had. And why can't I view it in a good light anymore? Like, it gives me this heaviness, and like I want to avoid it, kind of thinking about it, because it's so heavy. And I just don't like, is it just because those people are dead? Is that the only reason? Or is there something? I don't know. I'm asking you as my therapist. It's like, what? I was just trying to figure out why it was so heavy and sad feeling when it's only good memories. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, the quickest thing that comes to mind is just like that was a source of great comfort and joy that has now essentially been stripped from you.
Yeah.
Like those people are gone, and you can no longer enter that place where you spent hundreds of hours of time.
Right.
Which is just a weird thing. Like that version of you at that age and that scenario with those people is truly gone from this point forward from your life, which is that's a heavy and complex thing.
Yeah.
So I think that is at least some of the source of it.
Yeah, totally. It's just so. When I started driving, like when I was at Colorado Springs, I had like an hour or two before I got to Walsenburg. I was like, should I go? Or is that a bad idea? Is it going to cause me to like spiral even more?
Yeah.
And is this a good thing for? Because I've been prone to like when I'm sad or depressed, I do things purely to make it worse, which is just a really dumb impulse. Like in college, I would be super depressed and I would stay up really, really late. And then I would purposefully set an alarm for like 4 or 5 a.m. just to like punish myself and not let myself sleep the way I would want to.
Right.
Which is really, it's just dumb and like overly dramatic, like I was saying. Like, what, this is a stupid, childish thing to do. But yeah, it's even now I have that vision. Like I was just sitting there looking at the house and like the people had changed certain things. And I was just like, gosh, that thing is gone. And like, the other thought I had was like, well, so that place was comfortable because everything was taken care of for me by other people. So it's like, and even the weight was probably lifted from my parents when we were there. Cause my grandma was cooking and it was, a release for them, which probably doubled the release on me to be there. Because everyone's just like feeling good and happy to be together. And it's just like, I have to create my own comfort now. There's nowhere I can really go to where someone has made it a place for me specifically. Or, you know what I mean? Like I'm responsible for my own house. And like, if I want it to be a nice place to be, like I've got to clean up my room or I've got to make sure the backyard is really nice and cozy to be in and stuff. And it's like, this is, kind of a dark thought. It's like, I don't know if you can ever create a comfort or peace for yourself that would be at that level where if you feel something so comfortable or peaceful that someone else made for you, like, I don't know if you can recreate that yourself, creating that, but by creating it yourself. Does that make sense? Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's one of those dark, like being an adult things that happens. You're like, oh, it's cool. Yeah,
Sure.
I can eat ice cream anytime I want. I can eat Wendy's every day. Like, oh, that's so cool. But it's like you can't. It's just everything is on your mind. Everything is your responsibility. There's no comfort anymore from anywhere else. Which is a dark thing to say, and maybe it's not true, but that's sort of the conclusion I came to after my long drive,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think I should say real quick, I'm glad you did that. I'm really glad you took that detour and went there. Like it fits what I know of you, but it also just is something.
It would have been a missed opportunity
for some
if I
sort of for whatever minimal, not closure, but just a little nostalgia, reminiscing, even if it's a heavy emotion.
Yeah.
But what you were saying, I don't think, you can't create it yourself. You probably can't fabricate it, but I tend to think, you and I are still both in the kind of strange years of bringing up our children.
Right.
And potentially you and Megan's home someday could be a place of great comfort for your kids or grandkids, or
and I hope
when they're moved out, and I think through that it could become again like your own home could be a place of comfort, when you're enlivened by the joy of others coming in and even being in that stage of life, 40s or 50s or older, So I think it could come back around, but it's not going to be apparent. It'll like sneak up on you where you realize, this is at that same depth of comfort.
Right. Yeah. And there's probably a big mental part of it too, because even in just this year, 2017, I'm like, we joked when I was up there, it's like, there's going to be a point where we both have to get serious about like physically exercising purely because you have to at the age we're getting to. But
like beer and fast food, don't make
my
my body ripped and amazing? I don't
Right.
understand. I used to be able to...
Yeah, I used to be able to eat, orange chicken and chow mein at Panda Express and not have an immediate diarrhea blow, but that's not the case anymore. But it's like even back then as a child, your mental needs are met. Like when there was and there were less, obviously it's like I didn't have to provide for a family or anything. And so it's like this new stage of, I've got to learn to like be mentally okay with what's going on. And that's for one, I'm realizing how big that responsibility is for my own mind with what's going on, and how hard it is to, at least for me, like rein my own mind in and be like, because I have to be a good dad to 4 people. I have to be a good husband. I have to be a good housekeeper. I've got to take care of like a car and a yard and all this stuff. And it's a lot. Right. And I was even, another thing on the drive home as I was trying to think, because, in thinking about my grandma and my grandpa, and it's like I was remembering things. I was like, oh, I do want that for my kids, and I want to be better at this and that, which is a positive thought to have. But then I also immediately went to, I was like, I can't do all that. I can barely function in just figuring out how to be creative and financially solvent at the same time. Like that takes up everything a lot of times. And it's like, how am I supposed to fit in being a good dad and trying to watch my temper and watch my volume level and my voice for my kids and trying to do cool things with them as much as possible. So I don't know. I feel like I'm just rambling, but those are things in my head that the drive made me think. So
yeah. Well, I would think almost surely your grandparents, I mean, how much they were aware of this or not, I don't know, but they had to have periods of life where they were thinking the same thing, or just like they're just trying to survive their current state. But of course, you experienced them, in a completely different way, where they probably didn't feel put together necessarily or financially thriving, maybe, but they to you were a foundation,
right? It's like the analogy might be, it's like when you're born onto like an airplane and someone else is flying it, and you're like high up in the sky, and skies are blue and it's clear flying and whatever. But then at some point you're like, the pilot steps off and they're like, okay, you got to do this thing now. And I feel like I'm flying a plane. I'm just like bouncing off the earth. I'm like, I'm flying, but it's just like I'm hitting the ground a few times. I'm like bouncing around. I'm just like, I just want to get up. Like I got to get up there and get into like the calm air somehow and be flying, and everything's like going okay. And my memories of my grandparents are at, there was definitely stuff going on that I probably didn't know about. It seemed like they were, the same thing. Like maybe they were brought in under their parents. The plane is flying all right, and then they're given control of the plane. It's bouncing around, but then they had gotten back up to where things were like pretty stable, and that's the environment in which that house was so great for me and those people. And so I just gotta figure out how to fly the fucking plane so it's not making us all throw up. Anyway,
that should be our show's tagline instead of like the Nerdist has enjoy your burrito. Figure out how to fly the fucking plane.
Yeah.
We just close every show. We ask the guest, like, would you please figure out how to fly the fucking plane? Like, we just really appreciate it.
I'd be down for that. We need more catchphrases, taglines, and stuff. We can put on T-shirts and sell them and make money, because that's what I want to do.
Yeah. I'll draw like a cartoon version of you in a plane.
I'm like have this terrified look on my
all over the place.
White knuckling the steering wheel. Is it called a steering wheel on a plane? Boy, as the son of someone who flew,
but it looks like one with the top cut
airplanes, I should know some of this stuff.
Yeah. I think it's just like a joystick with one button on the top to shoot lasers.
Yeah, there's one gun for your like normal ammo where it doesn't run out, and then you've got like 4 missiles, but it takes a while for those to like reload. Yeah. So totally.
Right. Totally.
Okay. Well, I've got a very short internet comment that might lighten the mood here, and then we can get out. How do you feel about that?
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
What can I say? Internet comments, I get them every day.
All right. So literally 2 hours ago, this is fresh off the shit pile.
Ooh.
YouTube shit pile. And not a lot of conversation to be had here, just a little chuckle. All right, so this guy just said on one of my ambient performance video things, he said, "Watch this on the shitter with a dip in, ... Best shit ever."
What?
So a guy was dipping tobacco while on the toilet, and I was part of the trio of things that helped it be the best shit ever. So that's that's something I can take going forward in my life and say, you know what? I helped this man have the best shit ever. And no one can take that away from me now. So I'm honored to have received that comment. You're uncomfortable about it.
Well, I'm glad you perceive it in that way.
I just mainly perceive it as ridiculous. One, why would you do that? And two, why would you say that to me? Is my first two thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have no commentary on that one other than that I'm glad it wasn't said to me.
What would you have done if someone said that about your book? Like, I put some chaw in and I read the shot and I had the best shit I've ever had. What would you think?
I mean, I guess in a roundabout way that is flattering, but it's also giving me a mental picture I don't need.
Yeah. All right.
But hey, some people, that's one way to live life.
Okay. All right, Josh, anything else you want to say on this, the 40th episode of the Ink and Echo podcast? 40. We should be drinking 40s.
Nope, just... Too
late. Too late.
Dropped
for
the
that.
ball on that one.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm good.
Last thing. So Matthew McConaughey is in the Dark Tower movie. I was thinking maybe you would have gotten some lines ahead of time from the script for Matthew McConaughey, and I was thinking maybe you could read them. Is that a possibility?
Let's see here.
I'm sure you're trying to find the paper, right? You're trying to pull it up.
Oh, I'll get something good here. We have the power of the internet at my fingers. Okay, I gotta get in. Okay, that's going to be too much trouble. Let's see here. We've got to get in my McConaughey mindset.
Get in your McConaughey.
Think him. I got to be him. Yeah.
Roland, some men just want to see the world burn.
That wasn't very good.
Is that an actual line from the book?
The tower.
No, it's close. It's something like that.
The tower, it's the beam that holds up all the rest of the world. See, the beams go out, and I try to break it. At the top of the tower, that's where you'll meet the Crimson King and whatever he's got for you, Roland. Yeah, you're not gonna like it.
I feel like I'm not on my game today with the.
That's all right.
I don't feel like him.
I'm not. It's not every day we wake up feeling like Matthew McConaughey. You know. So
that's true. Some days wake up
and then
I'm him.
Some days you wake up and you feel like Chris Farley or something. Or who else? Some days I wake up and I feel like Benicio del Toro. I just have a grimace and pockmarked face all day. You know?
Indeed.
Okay. All right.
Let's get out of here. What is
the
this?
Ink and Echo podcast number 40. Next week will be 41. We won't celebrate it though.
This is Alan Rickman Paging Alan Rickman on the telephone. Please turn to page 394. Wandering the corridors after dark, Mr. Potter.
That's a new one. That's great. Let's bring that into the
you.
Ink and Echo canon.
Mm-hmm. Josh and his crazy impressions.